Today I'm going to talk to you about my scariest day as a law student. The thing about your scariest day as a law student is that it changes over time. So beginning 1L year, the scariest thing to me was the first time I ever got cold called. My last name is Weber, and in my first class, the first day that the professors were cold calling students, I got called because I was the last person on the roll. And the first time it happens, it is terrifying. So for those of you not familiar, most law schools use the Socratic method, in which the student has read some material and the professor will single you out in class. Some of them ask you to stand up, not always, but you may be standing in front of the class and the professor is asking you questions repeatedly about the text, trying to help you figure out how to read and think and study like a lawyer. Now, the next thing that you think would have been my scariest day as a law student is actually after I graduated, and that is taking the bar exam. I did take the week off before the bar exam to focus only on studying and not have any work obligations. And when I took the bar exam, it's different now. The format was a day of essays and a day of multiple choice. It's broken down into 4 different sections, so morning and afternoon across 2 days. And in those sessions, if you finish, you can leave. I've always been a decisive test taker. So I finished the morning session quite early. So I left the testing space and, did lunch, all of that good stuff. Came back for the afternoon session, and we were early, so a couple of the other test takers around me were saying, I didn't know you could come back after you quit. And I'm kind of like, what are you talking about? And I learned through those conversations that almost everyone in the room thought that I'd quit the bar exam in the first session because of when I'd finished. It's not because I thought I was right, I wasn't assuming that I'd gotten all the questions right, but I just don't, once I've decided, I've decided. I'm not gonna waste time going back and forth over the test. And that leads me to what was actually my scariest day. And that was the day that results came out. Now, we all knew in North Carolina that North Carolina tended to be one of the earlier states to get results out. We were expecting them towards the end of March, early April, and I don't remember the exact day that the results came out, but I do remember kind of perusing Reddit boards in the weeks before that just to see if anyone had heard anything or had started to get letters. And then one day, on my lunch break at work, and I see one of the Reddit boards start to blow up because people had started getting letters. And I just had this feeling that the letter wasn't home in my mailbox. And I get back to my desk, and one of my mentors was in town, and he was sitting at the desk diagonal from me. And I said, Todd, the letters are in. And he said, you have to go. You need to go get that letter. So I'd gone to my boss and said, listen, I got really good reason to believe that the bar results have been mailed out and that, the mail has already come at my house. And he said, you're not gonna be able to think of anything else. His name was Ray. He said, you're not gonna be able to think of anything else the rest of the day. Go get that letter. So I did. I left work, drove home, and I don't even think I parked in the driveway. I just pulled right up to the mailbox and pulled the mail out. And it was there. The letter was in the mailbox. I text my husband and say, it's here. The results are in. And he's like, what are the results? What are the results? I said, I don't know. I haven't opened the letter yet. And he's like, come on, open the letter. Like, don't just hold on to it. So I go inside. I opened the letter, and even thinking about it right now, I can feel like my heart racing and like my hands were shaking. I know exactly where I was standing in my kitchen. I can just visualize it all right now of how it felt that moment opening the letter. So I pulled out the letter, I opened up the top of the letter, and it says, Miss Weber, we are pleased. And I was just like, relief flooded through me. So I opened up the letter, it confirmed that I'd passed the bar exam, and I was just kind of like, oh my gosh, it's real, it's done. I called my husband, I start letting everybody know, and then I had to go back to work trying to focus the rest of the day. But it's much better trying to focus with, a happy result than if I had been waiting the rest of the afternoon just to go find out the results. But that was, in fact, the scariest day. It wasn't the getting cold called. It wasn't actually taking the exam. It was opening up the letter to find out whether I had passed or not.